Today's deck came from an idea I either had or saw at some point. I can't remember, but it's based on the card Bump in the Night. It's a sorcery speed pseudo lightning bolt in black. It's amazing. So I thought, why not click on the TCGplayer affiliate link in the description below to make a deck with these suckers. This deck isn't perfect, however, so I need your feedback and it's much appreciated. There are going to be 4 Bump in the Nights in the deck because that's what the deck is all about. Black burn spells. Now, it's technically not burn, it's life loss, but it's all the same if we win, right? Sovereign's Bite is similar, but for 1 extra mana, we'll have an opponent lose 3 life, and then we'll gain 3 life. There are, of course, 4 of these. Theros gave us Fruit of Tyrants, causing 2 life lost, which isn't as good, but it escapes probably faster than Bump of the Night can flashback, so it's not bad at all. 2 of these should do the trick. Vampire's Kiss also causes a drain of 2 while also gaining us 2, but it creates 2 blood tokens as well if we, for whatever reason, need to fill the graveyard for the previous escape cost, or just need to draw a card. The next black burn spells are going to be 4 copies of Misery Charm. This one lets us manipulate clerics, but our opponents might not have any, and we certainly don't have any, so this will just make our opponents lose 2 life. Okiba Reckoner Raid is also in the deck. Make sure you check out the vehicles deck I made with it if you want to have some other sort of deck using this card. But the 4 of these will ultimately drain 2 apiece and gain us 2 apiece, and then you flip to the backside and you get a creature, but that's not as important. We're trying to win fast. There is 1 copy of Absorb Vis, which costs a whopping 7. It does 4 and we gain 4, but it also has a basic land cycling ability just in case. Now, the funnest card in the deck has to be Tyrant's Choice. Both of us will vote Death or Torture. If Death wins, our opponents will sacrifice a creature. But if Torture wins or it's a tie, our opponent will just lose 4 life. So we'll basically just always choose Torture to ensure that the life loss of 4 happens for all 4 copies. To help get rid of creatures, there are 4 copies of Geth's Verdict. It makes our opponents sacrifice a creature while losing them a life. I also like that it gets around the hexproof creatures. Yeah, sure, we don't get a true creature get sacrificed, but it still causes the life loss. The only creatures we have in the deck are 4 serrated scorpions. They kind of just sit there and become meat shields, but we'll definitely just want them to die, so we'll just keep them up as blockers until the time is right. Probably. To draw some extra cards to get ahead, I've added 4 copies of Sign in Blood, a classic spell that can draw us 2 cards even if we do lose 2 life. Hold on, but wait, it says target player, which means at the end of the game, if our opponent is close to death, we can just force them to lose the life instead, and even if they do draw 2 cards, it's a wonderful way to make our opponent upset. Blood Pact is the 3-costed functional reprint of Sign in Blood, but it's at instant speed. I like that there are plenty of ways to gain life in the deck as well, so even if we draw the cards ourselves, it's not a big deal. There are 2 of these. As far as lands go, there are 9 swamps and 1 mountain for the Bump in the Night flashback cost, as well as being fetchable with Absorb Vis. 2 Bloodfell Caves for the dual land status and some more life gain, and 1 Bajuka Bog for the graveyard exiling shenanigans. But most importantly, there are 4 copies of Piranha Marsh. It's a tapped swamp essentially, but it makes our opponent lose a life, so for 0 mana, our opponent will just suffer that loss. Now, moving to the sideboard, there are 3 copies of Cast Down, just in case someone has too many creatures to handle. Soul Reap is another destroy creature spell for non-green creatures, but it's better than Cast Down in that it also causes 3 points of life if you cast another black spell this turn, so there are 4 of these. Another destruction card, Choking Sands, destroys a non-swamp land, and if it was non-basic, it'll do 2 damage to the land's controller. There are plenty of dual lands in Pauper, so this seemed appropriate. There are 2 of these. There are 2 copies of Suffocating Fumes for the Go Wide decks, giving all our opponent's creatures -1/-1. And lastly, there are 4 copies of Trespasser's Curse. Not so useful all the time, but whenever a creature enters under the cursed player's control, they'll lose a life and will gain a life. Really quite fun. Alright, let me know what you thought of the deck in the comments below. What did I get right and what did I get wrong? Thank you to my Patreon subscribers, and thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next week for your weekly dose of magic.